you can expect a small savings on gas. The average gas price in Maryland is $3.12, which is about 8 cents lower than this time last year, according to AAA. Here's how the color-changing technology works. When a player's internal temperature reaches around 102 degrees, which is the temperature of this water, the guard changes from black to white. Once a player is taken off the field and cools off, when I dip the guard into this cooler water, it changes back to black. Victims and their relatives reminded everyone that this is more than a political battle. It is about the justice for young women. Despite those celebrations, a lot still has to happen for this conflict to be officially resolved. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, met with his security cabinet earlier today. The rush is on. Next up on CNS TV, millions of people are jamming the roads and airports this holiday season. I'm Ben Wolf, and I'll help dial down that stress during the busiest travel season. We were told initially that voting would start late this afternoon and go into the early evening, but that wasn't the case, as the House took up an early vote and it passed swiftly and overwhelmingly, 427-1. The lone Republican voting against it, Clay Higgins of Louisiana, a fervent Trump supporter. Now, it goes to the Senate, and prior to today's vote, numerous press conferences from Republicans and Democrats, and while that was going on, victims and their relatives reminded everyone that this is more than a political battle. It is about the justice for young women.
My sister is not a political tool for you to use, and it's time for you to stop just talking about it and act. Vote yes.
And so today, Congress is moving forward with a vote on whether to publicly release files related to Jeffrey Epstein. The push gained momentum after a bipartisan petition to force a vote, led by Republican Representative Thomas Massie from Kentucky and Democrat Ro Khanna from California. The House reached the required signatures once newly elected Representative Democrat Adelita Grijalva from Arizona was sworn in last week, nearly 50 days after her special election win, with her colleagues applauding today's decision.
I want to thank Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna for your bravery in doing something that is much needed in America, crossing the political aisle that has become bigger than the Grand Canyon in America.
With this added pressure, President Trump flipped his stance.
I'm all for it.
And announced his support on Monday on his website, Truth Social, saying, quote, "We have nothing to hide," and calling the controversy a, quote, Democratic hoax. However, Epstein suggested that Trump was aware of what was happening, as we saw in emails that were released just last week. Lawmakers have released more than 20,000 pages of records from Epstein's estate. A federal judge says there are more than 100,000 pages altogether. The release could provide new clarity about who knew what, who had access, and who may have participated in Epstein-related sex trafficking activities. Now, again, President Trump says that if the Senate passes the bill, he will sign off on it. And if he does, that means the Jeffrey Epstein files will be released within 30 days. Reporting live from Capitol Hill, Ben Wolf, CNS TV.
It's protecting us and it's protecting our kids. And I mean, how can you go wrong?
That protection is a mouth guard.
I call it my check engine light.
It's called Thermopact. Yes, it protects the teeth and jaw, but it can also save a life. How? By letting players and coaches know when an athlete begins to overheat.
It's not a thermometer. It's not meant to diagnose. It's just a way for a coach, another athlete, a parent, a trainer to just look at you and say, you know what? Let's sit you down, cool you off, and get you back on before it becomes an issue.
Here's how the color-changing technology works. When a player's internal temperature reaches around 102 degrees, which is the temperature of this water, the guard changes from black to white. Once a player is taken off the field and cools off, when I dip the guard into this cooler water, it changes back to black. Dr. George Garbus, a dentist and longtime youth coach, was never satisfied with the way traditional mouthguards were made. The Biokinetics Ballistics Lab in Canada tested it, confirming the guard is 50% stronger than some traditional ones. But more important, its ability to detect overheating is new, something Garbus says is urgently needed. He was inspired to create it following the death of University of Maryland offensive lineman Jordan McNair. McNair's father says he is thankful.
I can really feel, his genuineness in regards to, what it was he was trying to do.
The technology is especially effective during those grueling summer workouts when heat illness is a real threat. The National Center for Catastrophic Sports Injuries says 40 high school players have died from heat stroke over the last 20 years.
We train all summer long, but it's completely a guessing game when you're dealing with heat. For this to give us that precautionary warning, it's unbelievable. And for the couple times that we've had to pull kids from the field, who knows what would have happened if we didn't.
Coaches and players love the product, but there is still a roadblock.
There was no parent education. All I ever did as a parent was sit in the stands as a passive observer. That was it. If a cold water tub or AD machine had fell out the sky and hit me in the head while I was sitting in the stands, I would have never known what it was.
Coaches need to adapt as well.
Change is hard, but do what's best for kids, protect them the most that we can. The sport's a great sport. Let's make sure we take care of the sport and continue to provide the safest environment that we possibly can.
For Dr. Garbus, this has been a labor of love.
There have been weak moments where I'm like, I'm done. This is just taking up so much time. But I'm always reminded of Jordan McNair and who he was and why he inspired me.
And why he thinks his work is far from done.
We can never get rid of concussions in contact sports. But every single death that has been related to heat could have been prevented.
Reporting from Columbia, Maryland, Ben Wolf, CNS TV.
Since I was in 6th grade, I'm in 12th now, so I've been here for a couple of years.
They come here to explore their creativity and to learn about themselves.
I just like how he allows us to do as much creativity as we can here, with the amount of time we have.
He is Donovan Bunting, and he runs the Teen Creation Station in Baltimore.
Let's watch how to do it, right?
Where kids learn photography, videography, music, design, and a lot more, including life lessons.
If you know all the niches and you find out your niche, hone in on your voice, then you can be a wedding photographer and successful.
They're also learning the importance of building a community.
There could be one kid that he might not have the best social experience in school. He coming here, he might get a couple guys that like manga like him.
For Bunting, it is a way to keep kids on the right track.
I like to tell people is, if the crime in Baltimore is going down, I feel like we have something to do with that. But like building relationships is where it starts, and building their trust.
And the kids notice.
We kept spitting out random creative ideas and projects and programs to do. And we did all that throughout the years, so that's why we're as close as we are now.
And close to making others see them and the city of Baltimore in a new light.
So for me, this positive outlet is, for me, a shining star and one of those cherries on top when it comes to the city of Baltimore that is so rich with culture, and not just like ethnically, but like arts.
Reporting from Baltimore, Ben Wolf, CNS TV.